Let's start here. Why is self-awareness such a superpower? Well, I always say first we need to know where we are, and then we need to choose where we want to be. And then, only then, when we have the A point and the B point determined, can we figure out how we get there. So if you don't have your current status clear, if you don't know what your current capability is, what your strengths and weaknesses are, how you're showing up and perceived by others, then it actually makes it significantly more difficult for you to forge a path towards where you want to be. Self-awareness is the foundation, the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, and it is what separates good leaders from great ones. The simple definition of self-awareness is the ability to understand your own emotions, behaviors, triggers, and the impacts that they have on other people. Because it's only when you truly understand yourself, your triggers, your values, your habits, your impacts, then you can start leading with intention and start to bridge those gaps that you might be experiencing so you can get to the next level, but also so that you can bring people along on the journey, you can hone your skills. I love the quote from Stephen Covey where he says, "Seek first to understand, then to be understood." That just doesn't just apply for understanding others. It's also really critical that we first seek to understand ourselves, and only then are we able to behave with intention so that others can understand us. Because if you don't understand yourself, it's practically impossible for you to understand others, and it's certainly more difficult for you to be able to lead effectively. Dr. Tasha Eurich is an organizational psychologist and did a huge study with thousands of people over years to determine what self-awareness is, why people need it, and how they can increase it. And this statistic that she uncovered is mind-blowing. 95% of people think that they are self-aware, but actually only 10 to 15% are. So 95% of us feel as though we are self-aware, that we have high levels of self-awareness, but only 10 to 15% of us actually do. And that is why self-awareness is thought of as the meta skill for the 21st century, because it creates the ceiling or the limit for all of our other skills. So if you want to be effective in communicating or influence or have a high EQ or be able to collaborate with others, the upper limit that you can achieve in all of those different skill sets is determined by your level of self-awareness. What we do know is that leaders who have high self-awareness are better at making great decisions, are more trusted by their teams, their direct reports, but also their peers and colleagues and their leaders. And they're less likely to burn out because they have a strong understanding of their own internal cues and their own triggers. Self-awareness, like most emotional intelligence skills or competencies, is one of those things that you never tick. You never go, oh, I'm self-aware now. I couldn't be more self-aware. It's a lifelong journey. I hate to say that. It's really, what's the word? Cliched. But it is really a lifelong journey and something that we can continue to hone over time. The fact of the matter is that most of us are walking around with a self-awareness gap. So we might think we know how we show up, but others are actually experiencing us different to how we think they are. If you think of any kind of behavior as actually a sum of three parts, we have our intention, then that drives the behaviors, and the behaviors are what drive the impact. Often we judge or assess ourselves based on our intention, but others judge or assess us based on our behavior or our impact. And so often we can feel as though we're self-aware and that we are aligned with our values and all of those things because we're thinking about the intention that is driving the behaviors, when in actual fact, the impact that we're having is disconnected from that intention. And so other people around us are saying, why is that person so unaware? How could they not know? Because they're actually assessing our effectiveness based on our actual behaviors or the impact that we're having. And that's why dedicated intentional work towards becoming more self-aware is so important, because it creates choice and intention. You can't change what you can't see, and nothing changes if nothing changes. So the opportunity to lean into better self-awareness tells us what we could focus on for better outcomes and impact.